to set a timer, is what I'm going to do, and give y'all about 5-6 minutes to do the front side. So this is exactly like what you're going to see tomorrow. You're going to have 1 or 2 multiple choice questions where you're going to be given a sentence and just asked to match up with which equation matches it, okay? So I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to give you about 5, 6, 7 minutes to work on this first page, and then I'm going to give you the answers to it. You cannot screw this up, okay? The only way you can really mess this up is by not doing it. If you get the wrong answer, nobody cares, all right? We're going to fix it. That's the point of a study guide day. Mistakes don't really kill you until tomorrow. So make all the mistakes you want today. So I'm going to shut up for a few minutes, give you guys the opportunity. I will go ahead and tell you that number 3, I screwed up, and there are 2 answers that are correct, not just 1. But other than that, so just go through, take your best educated guess, which sentence matches which option, and then I'm going to give you those answers shortly, okay? So I'm not going to tell you a whole lot. Like, I'm going to work every single problem for you, but I'm not going to tell you a lot at first. I want you to try it on your own first. World's not going to explode if you get it wrong. I'm not going to hit you if you get it wrong, okay? But doing it and then checking your work, even if it's incorrect, really does help you to learn it better. So all we're doing is we're taking our best shot for the next about 5, 6, 7 minutes. And Brandon, thank you for your patience, sir. I'll be right there. 4, thank you for bringing that to my attention, Lily. I forgot. Letter A, that is not a mistake. There should be like a line right there. That's a fraction bar. That's not a stray mark. It should be there. 3 has 2 right answers. Yep, so mistake number 1, I put 2 right answers for number 3. Mistake number 2, I forgot to put the line, but it looks like a stray mark on your copy, but that line should be there for A. Let's take a look at your answers. All right, so zooming in on number 1. What do we use when it just says a number and we don't know what that number is? We use that X, right? Well, technically, I guess we could use anything, but we're going to be boring and use X. So a number added to negative 19. The only place I see an X added to negative 19 is that spot right there. Your other clue that this one was correct is that it says it was equal to negative 21. Equal to negative 21 is right there. So for both of those answers, or for both of those reasons, you should have had B for number 1. Okay, and y'all, I'm so happy to see people doing these mappers, but make sure, this is going to be worth so much tomorrow, so you really want to make sure you know what you're doing. Okay, any questions about number 1? All right, number 2, it says 7 times the difference. So I'm going to go there first. When we're finding the difference, remember that difference means subtract. And all these have subtraction in them, so far that doesn't really help me. But it says the difference of 13 and a number, which we've established when we don't know that number, we're going to say X, right? So since it says the difference of 13 and X, I'm looking for something that says 13 minus X. That order matters. It says the difference of 13 and a number, so that means the 13 needs to come first. So it's either going to be this one or this one. It's not going to be A because that one is X minus 13, not 13 minus X. And in the problem, the number 13 came first. So I can narrow it down to B or D. When it says 7 times the difference, remember that means that we want to do the subtraction first. So what do we use to represent subtraction to make sure what happens first? We're going to put those parentheses around it. So B is not correct because here we would multiply first, then we would subtract. Because that says you're doing 7 times the difference, that means you need to multiply first. That means you need to subtract first, my bad, which means you need those parentheses, which means it should be D. Number 3, there were a couple right answers. That's the one I screwed up. 6 times a number could be represented either of those ways. They're both just sitting next to it. Quotient means what? Dividing. We use a fraction bar to represent division in big kid math, so it's going to be A. Here we're multiplying, so that's not right. Here we're subtracting. There we're multiplying again. So quotient is division. Number 5, it says 7 less than. Okay, remember less than means you're actually going to take something and subtract 7 from it, not do 7 minus something else. So the only two where you're subtracting 7 are right here and right here. So it's got to be one of those two. And it says 7 less than twice a number. So that means you're looking for a 2 sitting right next to the X to represent that twice a number, which is right there. Okay, so that means it's going to be B. That's the one where you take 2 times a number and then you subtract 7 from it. So it's going to be B. Number 6, when we're adding some, I should clarify. Okay, so sum means that we're going to add something, okay? Because it says we need to do 8 times the sum, that means we need to put parentheses around it because we need to do the sum first. Where do we see parentheses around x plus negative 192? We see it right on letter D. Those are brackets, but that's just another way of saying parentheses. And see how it has 8 times that sum? The 8 is sitting right next to the outside of it. So that one was a little tricky because of those brackets. But it's going to be D. And then last but not least, 10 subtracted from a number means that you're going to take that number and you're actually going to do minus 10, not 10 minus something else. You're taking 10, you're subtracting, you're taking away 10. So the only two where you're doing 10 subtracted from an X, actually I think there's only one where you're doing 10 subtracted from an X, isn't it? So it's got to be B. That's the only one where you're doing X minus 10. Okay, over on page 2, you're going to notice there are 2 of each type of problem. On the real thing tomorrow, you're just going to have 1 of each problem. The reason I'm giving you 2 today is, of course, because it's to study. So I'm going to work problem number 1 for you, and then I'm going to give you a few minutes to try number 3 on your own. So I'm going to give you kind of like a little model to go by. So for problem number 1, we are trying to get that X all by itself. There are 2 things. Well, technically there's one thing. There's a fraction sitting there. But technically there's 2 operations there, right? What does this little fraction bar mean we're doing with the 7? That means we're dividing. We want to cancel out that dividing. A fraction bar means division. To get rid of that division, what is the opposite of division? Multiplication. So to cancel out dividing by 7, we're just going to put a little 7 in parentheses, because that's how big kids write multiplication. Well, that or a dot. So we should be on page 2, baby. So how am I going to cancel out dividing by 7? I'm going to do that by multiplying by 7. I'm getting ready to write something in red because it's incorrect. So don't write this down. I see a lot of kids do this. They go, oh, well, I'm going to do 7 times 4 and get 28x. The whole point of multiplying by 7 was to get rid of that 7 in the bottom. These 2 7s cancel each other out. So there isn't a 7 even there for you to multiply by 4. So after I cancel out those 7s, what's still left over on this side of the equal sign? And what else? Oh, I love it. Negative. Very good. Don't forget that negative is still there. So I'm going to bring down that negative 4 and the x. Now, I multiplied the left-hand side by 7. What else does that mean that I need to do? Multiply the right-hand side by 7. Exactly. So 8 times 7 is 56. I better not see this tomorrow. Don't you please don't let me see that tomorrow. Yes, there is a negative 4 sitting in front of that x. Should be writing this down, boo. But what does -4 sitting next to the x mean? Multiplication. Do you cancel out multiplying with minus? No. How do you cancel out multiplication? Division. So you're going to divide by -4, not add. So that's going to cancel. Leave you with an x. I divided the left-hand side by -4. So, of course, I need to divide the right-hand side by -4. I should get -14 for a solution. So I realize I kind of put these problems in the wrong order because it makes sense for you to do number 2 next. Don't do number 2 next. I'm going to shut up for a minute and ask you to do number 3 because number 3 is the one that's just like number 2. That's just like number 1. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute, give you a chance to do number 3. I'm going to give you the answer in a minute, okay? But I want you to try it on your own first. Let's take a look at number 3. So what is sitting here with the x? I am dividing by 9. How do I get rid of dividing by 9? Multiply. And just for good measure, I'm going to do it on both sides while I'm thinking about it. So those are going to cancel. I'm still left with a 2x. So I got to bring that down because that is still there. Okay? And then 6 times 9 on the other side is going to be 54. How do I cancel out the 2? I divide. X is equal to 27. But a lot of you guys already had that, which makes me very happy. Okay, so we're just canceling out that division with multiplication. I'll sign it real quick, baby. And then divide both sides by that number. That coefficient is what that's called. You're welcome. All right, I'm going to skip back up to number 2, and then I'm going to get you to do number 4 by yourselves in a second. Okay, the reason number 2 can be complicated is because there's more than one right way to do it. Okay, so this is why sometimes people have a hard time with this. It depends on which one you want to get rid of first. My personal opinion, for what it's worth, is that kids make fewer mistakes. Look what's over here on the right, on the same side of the equal sign. We've got that 5, we've got that 8, and we've got that -4, right? My opinion, for what it's worth, is that kids make fewer mistakes if you get rid of that -4 first, because it just makes it a little bit easier to do the rest. So how am I going to cancel out a -4? Yes, ma'am. +4. The inverse, the opposite of a -4, is going to be a +4. I need to make sure that I do what to the other? If I added 4 over there, exactly. So I got to do it to the other side too. Okay, so 11 plus 4 gives me 15. I still need to bring all of that down because I haven't gotten rid of the 5 or the 8 yet. So now I have a problem just like I did over here. Now I'm down to just the fraction. So how am I going to cancel out dividing by 8? I'm going to cancel it out by doing what? Multiplication. Yep. So those are going to cancel because they're inverses, they're opposites, so they cancel each other out. What do I have left? I have that 5x that still needs to be brought down. The 8's canceled, but the 5 is still there. And then over on the right-hand side, I did 15 times 8. What is that? Thank you, 120. I was having a brain cramp for a minute. And then I'm not going to cancel out that 5 by subtracting. How am I going to cancel out that 5? By dividing. Exactly. I'm not going anywhere, boo. X is equal to 24. Okay, I'm going to shut up for a minute. Leave number 2 up there. It's exactly like number 4. So I'm going to give you a minute to try number 4 on your own. But you can use number 2 as a model there. I'm going to be right back with you. So again, even though you could do it in a different order, I feel like it's easier to get rid of that minus 12 with a plus 12. Okay, I think it's easier to start off there. If you add 12 to this side, what do you got to do to the other side? Add 12 to the other side. So that gives me 22. I need to bring down that 4/5 x because that is still there. This means division. I cancel out division by multiplying. Nothing's getting past most of you guys today. And this is the part I saw some of you guys forgetting though. If you multiply that side by 5, you got to multiply that side by 5 too. So those are going to cancel. You still have a 4 and an x that needs to come down. Oops, sorry. My screen was doing nutty stuff. And then 22 times 5 is what, 110? And then to cancel out that 4, I divided both sides by 4. So x is equal. I saw people panicking because it came out to be a decimal. It's okay. Decimals are all right. It happens. So any questions about number 4? Okay, I'm going to kind of zoom a little bit so that anybody that's still writing that can see it. But for the rest of the group, I'm going to go ahead and work on number 5. So you're going to notice this time for number 5, that -1 and that x, they're stuck on top of that 9. You can't get rid of that -1. Why am I writing this in red? Because it's wrong. You can't get rid of that -1 until you get rid of that 9 underneath. Because the -1 and the x are stuck up there, kind of like a cat in a tree. You got to get them out of there before you can actually do any real work. So instead of dealing with that first, I'm going to deal with I'm going to deal with dividing by 9. What is the inverse? What is the opposite of dividing by 9? Multiplying by 9, right? Now, this is the other thing I don't want to see tomorrow. Do not do 9 times -1 or 9 times x. The whole point of multiplying by 9 is because those are just going to cancel each other out. So you don't even need to do anything with that 9 and the -1 and the x. You just need to bring down the -1 and the x. Yes, sir. Write a Post-it note, please. So those 9s canceled each other out. Now don't forget, since I multiplied the left-hand side by 9, I got to multiply that right-hand side by 9. So -1 times 9 is -9. And then the last thing I need to get rid of is the -1 by doing a +1. X is equal to -8. So I'm going to shut up. As you can see, number 6 is almost a carbon copy of number 5. It just has different numbers in it. Use number 5 as a resource. Try to do that on your own. I'm going to come back to you in a minute. Couple minutes is up. Number 6, last one on this page. So just like number 5, the x plus 8 is stuck up there. Okay? We got to get rid of that 3. We can't do -8 yet, because that 3 is like trapping that x and the 8 up on top of it. So how am I going to get rid of that? Dividing by 3. I'm going to do a multiplying by 3. And I'm going to do it on both sides. Here, those 3's are going to cancel each other out. So you're just left with x plus 8. And then 3 times 3 is 9. Last but not least, get rid of the 8 by doing a -8. X is equal to 1. All right, so if you guys understood the steps that I just did, you're going to be just fine on half your mastery quiz tomorrow. I'm going to turn to page 4. Sorry, I won't. Woo! Okay, no, I'm not. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a minute. I'm going to answer his question while a couple y'all are writing. Oh, problem I'm going to ask you is, or the clue I'm going to give you, remember, those are trapped. inside the parentheses. You can't put them together, so you're going to have to do something with that -6 to like get them out of there. So that's the clue. So that's the clue I'm going to give you. All right, just because I see the time we've got left here, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this for you. You're starting off perfect. So don't forget about the fact that you've got a 24. Yeah, you forgot your n, baby girl. So -6 times 1 gives you -6. -6 times times positive 4n gives you 24n, and that'll be a minus. Okay, I'm going to bring down everything else. Be careful to keep it nice and lined up. Okay, so see how I multiplied the -6? So I put it right underneath there. Then I did the -6 times 4n. I've got it nice and lined up to make it a little bit less confusing. I'm going to get rid of that -6 with a +6. So that gives me 96. I'm going to bring down, that's not just a 24, that's a -24. Divide both sides by -24. And I didn't give myself enough room here, but it should be -4 is equal to n. Okay, here's what I really, really, really want you to do. So tomorrow, when you guys get in here, we're going to go over these last 5. What would be incredibly helpful is if you try them yourself tonight. Try them. If you get them wrong, that's okay. But it's going to be more effective if you see like what mistake you made. I want to give you guys a couple of clues though before you take off. First of all, do we notice that these are on the same side of the equal sign? So that means you're not going to cancel. Okay, what are you going to do with those? You're going to add them together because they're on the same side of the equal sign. Same thing right here. Those are on the same side, so put them together, okay? 11 and 12, though, you've got them on opposite sides. Okay, so we are going to go over these. Don't forget that